What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to The Haunted Beard. Thanks for joining me today. Today, I want to talk to you about a couple brand new 2023 movie releases that I just watched and want to just give you some of my thoughts. So, here we go. First off, I watched the new Netflix film Unlocked. This is a mystery thriller from Korea, and this one tells the story of a young woman whose life is turned upside down when a dangerous man gets a hold of her cell phone and uses it to track her every move. And for the most part, this is a decent enough watch, and I enjoyed my time here for the most part. And the look of this is extremely polished and extremely well shot. There's obviously a large part of kind of playing into the internet stuff and how we present ourselves online, and it seems like they were definitely trying to go for that look. This thing is like just lit perfectly, color corrected perfectly. There's no like visual flaws or anything like that in it, and it kind of works for me, but it just all looks so artificial. But I guess that's kind of the point, so I guess it's fine. And this one obviously plays into our fears of privacy with everybody virtually living on the internet now. If you lose your cell phone, somebody can hack it and pretty much destroy your entire life, and that's more or less exactly what happens here. And this one's interesting too because simultaneously, while this stuff is happening with this woman, there is a serial killer murder investigation going on. And as I said, this one is a decent time. One of the things that I think that they could have handled better is really kind of restructuring parts of the story. For the most part, the mystery element of this is pretty much solved and figured out within the first half hour. I feel like they had a setup and a story here for a really intriguing kind of mystery, but they just solved everything pretty quickly. And I feel like if they would have maybe moved some stuff around and kind of rearranged some stuff, they could have held on to that mystery longer into the movie, and it would have just been more exciting and thrilling overall. And so after that point, there's not really any mystery of like a whodunit sort of thing. You pretty much know all the players and all the pieces, and you're left to just kind of watch everything sort of play out up into a conclusion. And so really all you're left with is just kind of a thriller type movie to just see how everything plays out. And I guess you could say there's kind of some twists and turns on the way, although none of them I would say are super surprising. There is one that's somewhat surprising towards the end of the movie, but like I said, this is pretty much kind of standard stuff. It's done and executed well enough. The pacing's pretty quick, so you know it moves along and keeps your interest. It's not really boring or anything like that. There was never a moment where I was just like, totally checked out. I had a decent enough time. The film ends, no spoilers, but it ends pretty standard, kind of expected. It's nothing we haven't really seen before, but it's a fine enough time. So in the end, I'm going to give Unlocked a 6 out of 10. And the next movie I watched is Swallowed, which is now available on demand. And this tells the story of two friends and their final night together, which turns into a nightmare of drugs, bugs, and horrific intimacy. And the setup here is pretty good and pretty intriguing, and I feel like sets up something pretty wild and crazy. As it's not more than about 5 to 10 minutes into the movie, you kind of realize sort of the implications of what's happening, and it's a pretty crazy little setup that you're definitely intrigued with how it's going to play out. I also like just some of the presentation here, whereas I talked about how perfect Unlocked looks, this is a movie that is the opposite of that, which is really kind of nice. It's got just, some dark and kind of grungy lighting and harsh lighting, and some stuff is a bit out of focus here and there, and they're not really concerned about painting this, perfect looking picture. It's mostly handheld and just kind of, little handheld camera movements. Nothing's perfectly still or static or anything like that. It's also presented in a full screen format, which is kind of interesting as well. So I like the visuals here. I think work pretty good. And I also think the performances here are pretty good. Jenna Malone stands out, as does the main lead, Cooper Koch. The thing about this, though, is as intrigued and exciting as I thought the setup was, I just felt a little bit underwhelmed by the execution and the delivery of it. And it's kind of a bummer because going back and thinking about it, I like that this is a bit more of a realistic, kind of grounded presentation here. And also, too, for the most part, the movie plays out in real time, which is also pretty cool. but I just didn't really feel like the intensity and sort of the horror of it all of what they presented. And it, in large part, comes to a scene about halfway through. And I won't mention what happens. I'm not going to get into any specifics. But it's clear that, you know, the movie has obviously been kind of building up to this scene, which is about the halfway point, maybe a little bit past. And when you kind of realize, like, this is sort of the horror element of the movie that's supposed to be, you know, this disturbing and gross scene. And it is gross, but it's just not really my flavor. I just didn't really connect and jive with it. And I was kind of just sitting there and I was just like, okay, yeah, this is what they're doing. It's just, you know, I understand it's supposed to be gross. It's not supposed to be pleasant, and it isn't pleasant, and it is gross, but it's just like, this is just not really working for me. And I will give the film a little bit of credit too, because after this scene, there is probably like about a 20-minute sequence of this kind of long, drawn-out, slow-building suspense, which is just largely played out with dialogue between these two characters. And it's a pretty good scene, and I like that aspect. It's definitely the best part of the entire movie. But overall, this one just kind of left me a little bit just wanting more. And really, that's just in large part to how they presented sort of the horror element of this, that I just didn't really feel the energy and the intensity behind it. It all just kind of felt a little bit flat for me, and it just kind of didn't work. And so the majority of this it was fine. It's got a couple bright moments, but really just the horror element for me was just kind of, it just didn't really work. And so in the end, I'm going to give Swallowed, I'm going to go with a 5 out of 10 for Swallowed. So those are just some thoughts. Wanted to keep you guys updated on just what I've been watching. Finally, I've been starting to dig into some of the 2023 releases. So those are my thoughts on Unlocked and Swallowed. Hit me up down in the comments below if you've seen these. Would love to hear your thoughts on them. That's all I got for you. If you like videos like this, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. I greatly appreciate it. I'll see you next time on The Haunted Beard.